Imagine sitting in a room full of people, laughter filling the air, and suddenly, the woman you love turns to everyone and says something that makes your blood run cold. How would you feel? Humiliated, shocked, or strangely awakened to a truth you never dared to explore? Tonight, I want to take you on a journey of love, desire, vulnerability, and the unspoken secrets that live in the corners of our relationships. My wife's words at that party didn't just sting, they revealed an intimacy I never expected, and a loneliness that I thought only existed in quiet, private moments. We all hide pieces of ourselves, but what happens when the world sees them? What happens when the most intimate parts of your life are exposed, and yet you find a strange liberation in it? Stay with me, because tonight's story is not just about embarrassment, it's about desire, connection, and the uncharted emotions that lie beneath the surface of love. He felt the eyes of the room on him. The laughter that had filled the air moments ago now felt like 1,000 needles on his skin. She had said it. Words he could never forget. "You're having intimacy with your hand tonight." For a heartbeat, everything froze. He imagined the whispers, the snickers, the way the room had turned into a stage where he was both actor and audience. But in the shock, a strange heat stirred inside him, a mix of humiliation and an undeniable, forbidden thrill. Later, alone, he replayed her words. He thought of the nights they spent together, the secrets whispered under covers, the stolen glances that carried more meaning than entire conversations. And now, confronted with the raw honesty of her teasing, he realized something: love and desire were never meant to be tame. They were messy, wild, and intoxicating. The loneliness he had felt in the shadow of others' eyes melted when he remembered her warmth, her scent, her laughter. That night, in the privacy of his own mind, he embraced both vulnerability and longing. And though the party would remember her words as a joke, he remembered the unspoken promise in them, a promise of intimacy, of connection, of a love that dared to be fearless. Vulnerability is the secret heartbeat of intimacy, the quiet thread that weaves us together in ways words alone can never describe. It is the trembling, unguarded moment when your soul is exposed, when the polished mask you present to the world slips just enough to reveal the raw, tender core beneath. In relationships, whether romantic, emotional, or even sexual, it is the moments of vulnerability that hold the power to bind hearts more tightly than any grand gesture, any carefully rehearsed declaration of love. There is a fragile courage in letting someone see you as you truly are, stripped of pretense and perfection, and yet it is also terrifying, because vulnerability comes with the risk of rejection, ridicule, or misunderstanding. It is standing at the edge of a cliff, feeling the wind tug at your hair and clothes, knowing that you might fall, yet choosing to step forward anyway. This is what it means to expose your inner world to someone else, to let them in on your fears, your desires, your private truths, and your unspoken longing. Consider the nature of intimacy itself. It is not just the touch of a hand or the closeness of bodies, although those moments carry their own weight. True intimacy is the act of revealing the parts of yourself that no one else sees, the quiet corners of your mind where doubt and longing mingle, where shame and curiosity coexist. When a person allows themselves to be vulnerable, they are offering a gift that is both terrifying and precious, the gift of authenticity. It is a gesture that says, "This is who I am. Take me in all my imperfect, messy, beautiful entirety." And when this vulnerability is met with understanding, compassion, or even playful acceptance, it transforms the dynamic between two people. It creates a bond that cannot easily be broken, a thread that weaves through the fabric of their shared existence, strong and unyielding because it is built on truth rather than pretense. There is a paradox at the heart of vulnerability. It is both exposing and empowering. To reveal your deepest fears or desires is, on the surface, to surrender control, to place your emotional safety in someone else's hands. Yet, in that surrender lies immense power. To admit your longing, to confess your insecurities, to allow someone else to witness your private truths, is to reclaim ownership of your own narrative. It is to declare, whether silently or aloud, that your emotions are valid, that your experiences matter, that your desire to connect is worthy of recognition. Vulnerability transforms what might have been shame or secrecy into a source of strength. It forces you to confront your own humanity, to accept the shadows within yourself, and to trust that someone else will not retreat at the sight of your imperfections, but will instead respond with empathy, tenderness, or even shared desire. In the context of love, vulnerability manifests in countless subtle ways. It is in the whispered admission of longing after a long day, when the world seems to press against you from all sides, and the heart aches for touch. It is in the quiet confession of desire that trembles on the lips, unsure whether it will be met with rejection or reciprocation. It is in the act of showing up fully, despite the knowledge that the other person may not meet you halfway, that they may laugh, or that they may fail to understand the intensity of what you feel. These moments, fleeting though they may be, are the lifeblood of emotional connection. They are the sparks that ignite passion and intimacy, the invisible threads that draw two hearts closer in ways words alone cannot achieve. One of the most profound aspects of vulnerability is its ability to dissolve barriers. When one person opens themselves fully, revealing their inner fears and desires, it invites the other person to do the same. Walls built from past disappointment, mistrust, or insecurity begin to crumble in the presence of authentic exposure. A simple acknowledgement of longing, a confession of anxiety, or the gentle admission of weakness can ripple through a relationship, creating a space where honesty and tenderness flourish. Vulnerability is contagious in this sense. It teaches empathy, encourages openness, and cultivates a climate where true intimacy can thrive. It reminds both partners that they are human, that they are imperfect, and that their shared journey is one of exploration rather than performance. In romantic encounters, vulnerability often intersects with sensuality in ways that are both exhilarating and frightening. The act of revealing desire, of allowing oneself to be physically and emotionally exposed to another person, is an expression of trust as profound as it is intimate. It is the difference between mere physical contact and true erotic connection. When a lover sees the trembling hand, the hesitant glance, the slight quiver in a breath, they are witnessing a moment of profound authenticity. These are not mere movements, they are signals of the heart, the soul reaching outward in a language that requires no words. To respond to such moments with attentiveness, care, and reciprocation is to honor the vulnerability of the other, to recognize the courage it took to step into that exposure. But vulnerability is not confined to moments of desire alone. It exists in the quiet, mundane corners of a shared life. It is the willingness to admit mistakes, to acknowledge moments of weakness, to confess when the heart feels lonely or unfulfilled. It is the courage to say, "I am afraid, I am lost, I need you," or even "I want you," knowing that the admission may be met with misunderstanding or indifference. Yet it is precisely in these admissions that the deepest bonds are forged. Every time someone chooses honesty over concealment, they strengthen the invisible threads that connect them to another human being. They invite compassion, nurture empathy, and create the conditions for love to grow in its most authentic form. There is also a transformative quality to vulnerability in the way it reshapes the self. When you allow yourself to be fully seen, you confront the full spectrum of your own emotions, the desires that thrill you, the fears that haunt you, the insecurities that gnaw at your confidence. To sit with these emotions openly is to engage in a form of self-reckoning that is both painful and liberating. It strips away the layers of pretense, revealing the essence of who you are and what you need from connection. In doing so, you learn to accept yourself more fully, and in turn, You learn to accept others with the same grace. Vulnerability teaches humility, patience, and resilience, as it continually reminds us that to be human is to feel, to yearn, and to risk being hurt in the pursuit of love. It is important to note that vulnerability is not a one-sided endeavor. It requires a partner who is capable of receiving it with grace, empathy, and understanding. A vulnerable confession offered to someone unprepared or unwilling to honor it can be damaging, reinforcing fear and mistrust. The magic of vulnerability lies in its reciprocity. The dance between openness and acceptance, between exposure and protection. When both partners engage in this delicate balance, intimacy blossoms. When one retreats or mocks, it withers. This delicate interplay underscores the courage inherent in vulnerability, to risk everything, to reveal everything, and to hope for a response that nurtures rather than diminishes the heart. Ultimately, vulnerability is the foundation upon which all meaningful intimacy is built. It is the silent language of trust, the unspoken covenant of connection, the force that allows love to transcend superficiality. Without it, relationships remain shallow, interactions mechanical, and hearts unfulfilled. With it, even the smallest gestures, an honest glance, a trembling hand, a whispered confession, carry the weight of eternity. It is in these moments that love is most alive, most authentic, and most transformative. To embrace vulnerability is to embrace life itself, in all its chaos, uncertainty, and brilliance, and to step fully into the possibility of connection that can heal, thrill, and ignite the soul. There is a peculiar tension that exists in the space between humiliation and desire, a trembling edge where embarrassment and arousal intertwine, and it is in this liminal space that some of the most intense, unforgettable moments of intimacy are born. Humiliation, by its nature, strips away pride, confidence, and control, leaving the self exposed in ways that are both terrifying and raw. It is the sudden awareness that others are watching, that your private actions or thoughts have been made visible, and that judgment is inevitable. And yet, paradoxically, this exposure can awaken desire in ways that polite restraint never could. The human heart, delicate and combustible, often finds a strange thrill in being seen in our most vulnerable, imperfect states, because in that seeing there exists an undeniable electric truth. We are alive, we are felt, and we are not alone in our imperfection. When humiliation occurs in the context of intimacy, the effect is amplified. It is not simply the act itself that provokes a response, but the collision of public visibility with private desire. The mind races to reconcile the two, the shame of exposure and the hidden yearning that has been quietly simmering beneath the surface. The heart pounds not just with fear, but with a curious heat, as if the very act of being witnessed awakens a desire previously dormant. This is why moments that might initially feel mortifying, like being teased publicly, or having a private act revealed, can transform into moments of profound erotic awakening. The body reacts before the mind fully comprehends, muscles tensing and relaxing in rhythms dictated by both apprehension and longing, the breath hitching, the pulse accelerating, and a warmth spreading where control once reigned. There is an intricate psychology behind this thin line, rooted in the intimate dance of power and surrender. Humiliation, in its rawest form, demands surrender. It forces the individual to relinquish control, to acknowledge their exposure, and to confront the gaze of others without the protective armor of composure. Desire, on the other hand, thrives on surrender as well, though of a different kind, a willing surrender to pleasure, to intimacy, to the magnetic pull of attraction. When humiliation and desire converge, they create a charged atmosphere, a delicate equilibrium where fear and anticipation coexist, where the mind teeters between retreat and surrender, and where the heart pulses with a heightened awareness of sensation. It is a paradoxical alchemy. Shame fuels desire, vulnerability intensifies pleasure, and the act of being seen becomes both a source of fear and an irresistible draw. In moments where the private self becomes public, the mind often experiences a cascade of conflicting emotions. There is the sting of embarrassment, the heat of curiosity, and the undeniable fascination with the audacity of exposure. The inner voice may protest, a whisper of caution and societal conditioning reminding one of decorum and propriety. Yet, beneath that voice, a deeper, more primal current moves, coaxing the body to respond, to explore, to feel the fullness of an emotion unmediated by fear of judgment. The juxtaposition of shame and desire creates a tension that is magnetic, compelling, and impossible to ignore. It is the tension of a forbidden touch, the allure of a gaze that lingers too long, the thrill of a secret revealed in a room full of eyes. The duality of humiliation and desire is intoxicating because it confronts the individual with their own raw humanity, forcing them to recognize the intimate, often messy, layers of their own emotional and physical selves. There is also a profound vulnerability in allowing oneself to inhabit this tension willingly, to embrace the delicate line between embarrassment and arousal rather than recoiling from it. To do so is to confront deep, seated fears of judgment and rejection, and to acknowledge the power inherent in desire itself. Desire, after all, is not polite. It is not neatly packaged or contained within the bounds of social propriety. It emerges unbidden, often in moments of discomfort or exposure, and it demands recognition. By standing on the precipice between humiliation and desire, one opens themselves to a raw, unfiltered form of intimacy that cannot exist in a vacuum of safety or predictability. It is in this space that the deepest emotional connections can form, because it requires the courage to be seen, fully and unguardedly, and to respond authentically to the stirrings of the heart and body. The interplay between humiliation and desire is particularly potent in relationships where trust has been established. Yet even in new or tenuous connections, the tension can evoke powerful responses. Trust acts as a lens through which the experience is filtered, allowing the vulnerable individual to explore their response to exposure without the constant shadow of fear or betrayal. In a trusted context, humiliation can become a language of intimacy, a way of expressing desire that transcends words. A teasing comment, a daring revelation, a subtle act of exposure, all can serve as catalysts for connection, drawing partners into an intricate dance of emotion and sensation where vulnerability and pleasure are inseparable. The boundaries of propriety blur, giving way to a more profound recognition of the human need for acceptance, for connection, and for the acknowledgement of desire, even when it is inconvenient. Unexpected or socially transgressive, humiliation, when experienced in a safe and consensual context, often acts as a magnifying lens for desire. The awareness of being observed heightens sensitivity, intensifies sensation, and focuses attention on the smallest details of touch, gaze, and breath. It is the knowledge that someone sees you fully, with all your flaws and yearnings exposed, that amplifies the erotic charge, transforming ordinary gestures into moments of intense intimacy. The body remembers these moments, committing them to memory with an intensity that ordinary experiences rarely achieve. The mind, too, lingers in the afterglow of this tension, replaying the mingling of shame and pleasure, the delicate oscillation between fear and longing, and the intricate interplay of emotion that defines the human experience of intimacy. This thin line between humiliation and desire is not merely a psychological curiosity. It is a fundamental aspect of the way human beings connect. It challenges societal norms, pushes against internalized constraints, and forces individuals to confront the messy, complex, and often contradictory nature of their own emotions. To navigate this line is to engage in a subtle act of courage, a willingness to experience life and love in its full spectrum, without retreating into the safe, sanitized boundaries of conventional behavior. It is in this willingness that erotic energy is awakened, emotional depth is explored, and intimacy achieves its most profound resonance. One must also acknowledge the role of anticipation in heightening this tension. The mind imagines the consequences of exposure, the reactions of others, and the potential for pleasure or discomfort. This mental simulation creates a charged atmosphere before any physical interaction even occurs, amplifying the emotional and physiological response to the moment. Anticipation is the invisible thread that links humiliation and desire, making the eventual experience more intense, more vivid, and more unforgettable. It transforms an ordinary encounter into a heightened, almost cinematic experience, where every glance, every word, and every subtle movement carries amplified significance. There is a subtle artistry in navigating the delicate balance between humiliation and desire, in understanding how exposure can enhance intimacy rather than diminish it. It requires self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to embrace complexity. It demands attention to the needs of both oneself and one's partner, a recognition that vulnerability can be both terrifying and intoxicating, and that desire often thrives precisely in the moments where fear and embarrassment converge. Those who master this interplay find that the boundaries of conventional intimacy expand, revealing new dimensions of pleasure, connection, and emotional resonance that would remain inaccessible in the absence of risk and exposure. In the quiet aftermath of such moments, when the initial shock has passed and the mind begins to process the experience, there is often a profound sense of revelation. One recognizes that the body and heart are capable of responding in ways previously unimagined, that the experience of humiliation can coexist with desire, and that intimacy itself is not merely a function of physical proximity, but a complex interplay of emotion, perception, and trust. The memory of standing on that thin line, of feeling the simultaneous pull of shame and longing, lingers long after the event, shaping the way one approaches connection, vulnerability, and passion. In the future, connection is often taken for granted in the rhythms of daily life, the predictable routines, the familiar faces, and the habitual exchanges that seem to define our relationships. We move through days assuming that love, desire, and intimacy are constants, something steady and unchanging, yet in reality, connection is far more delicate, nuanced, and alive. It requires attention, creativity, and vulnerability to sustain, and sometimes it is in the most unexpected moments, the subtle gestures, or the unforeseen circumstances that connection is. Read us, covered with the intensity of a first encounter. There is an almost magical quality in realizing that the bond we thought we fully understood has layers yet to be explored, dimensions that reveal themselves only when we allow ourselves to notice, to listen, and to feel deeply. These moments of rediscovery often arrive when the familiar is disrupted, when routines are broken, or when the ordinary gives way to the extraordinary, forcing us to see one another and ourselves in a new light. The human heart is remarkably adaptive, capable of retreating into habit or comfort, yet always longing for novelty and recognition. In long-term relationships, for example, partners can become so accustomed to each other's presence that the subtle sparks of desire, the quiet intimacies, and the tender gestures that once held profound significance may fade into the background. Yet even in these circumstances, connection is never entirely lost. It is simply dormant, awaiting a catalyst to awaken it. The catalyst can be a playful comment, a shared secret, a daring confession, or a moment of vulnerability that shatters the illusion of predictability. It is often in moments that feel accidental, inconvenient, or even uncomfortable that we find ourselves re-engaging with one another in ways that remind us why we were drawn together in the first place. Rediscovering connection is not about grand gestures or dramatic proclamations, but about recognizing the subtle threads that have always existed and allowing them to weave new patterns of intimacy. Surprise is a potent agent in this rediscovery. When a partner behaves in an unexpected way, reveals a hidden facet of themselves, or challenges the assumptions we hold, it creates an opportunity for connection to flourish. The mind, startled out of complacency, is forced to pay attention, to reassess, and to respond with curiosity and engagement. Desire is reignited not through physical proximity alone, but through the emotional and psychological stimulation that accompanies novelty. The subtle thrill of learning something new about someone we thought we fully knew can be more intoxicating than any superficial attraction, for it reminds us that intimacy is not a static state, but a dynamic journey, constantly evolving as we choose to remain open and attentive to one another. Rediscovering connection also requires a willingness to confront the vulnerabilities that often remain hidden beneath the surface of our relationships. It is in the moments of quiet disclosure, of admitting loneliness, fear, or unfulfilled desire, that the opportunity for genuine reconnection arises. When one partner steps forward, offering honesty in place of performance, the other is invited to meet them with empathy, compassion, and understanding. This mutual exchange of authenticity serves as a bridge across any distance that may have grown over time, allowing both partners to recognize that beneath the layers of habit and routine lies a shared longing for closeness, for recognition, and for the affirmation of love. Rediscovery is not merely about rekindling desire, but about reclaiming the emotional landscape of the relationship, exploring its contours with curiosity, care, and attentiveness. There is also a profound sensuality in rediscovering connection in surprising ways. Desire, after all, is not merely physical. It is a complex interplay of emotion, perception, and anticipation. When a partner reveals themselves in an unexpected manner, when they express vulnerability, humor, or playfulness that had been dormant, it triggers a cascade of responses, both emotional and physical. The body remembers the thrill of being seen, the subtle tension of anticipation, the warmth of shared intimacy. The mind, attuned to these signals, heightens awareness, drawing attention to gestures, glances, and touches that may have previously gone unnoticed. Rediscovery, in this sense, is not just a mental or emotional experience, but a holistic one, where desire, connection, and intimacy converge in a potent, almost electric dance. Communication plays a pivotal role in this process. Rediscovery requires not only openness to change, but also the courage to express oneself honestly, even in ways that may feel risky or unfamiliar. To articulate longing, to ask for attention, or to share private desires is to invite engagement, to signal a willingness to deepen the connection. The response to these invitations is equally critical. When met with attentiveness, encouragement, and reciprocal vulnerability, the bond between partners is strengthened, creating a feedback loop that fosters ever deeper intimacy. The act of expressing oneself, of daring to be fully seen, becomes both a mirror and a magnifier, reflecting the depth of connection while amplifying its impact on the heart and body alike. Unexpected gestures and moments of spontaneity often serve as catalysts for rediscovering connection. A lingering glance across a crowded room, a playful touch that recalls an earlier intimacy, a whispered word that evokes memory and desire. All of these can awaken dormant feelings and illuminate hidden layers of the relationship. These moments carry a sense of immediacy and intensity precisely because they break the rhythm of predictability. They are the interruptions that jolt the mind into awareness, reminding us that connection is not merely an abstract concept, but a lived experience that requires attention, presence, and engagement. Rediscovery is, therefore, as much about mindfulness as it is about passion. The deliberate act of noticing, appreciating, and responding to the subtleties of another human being. Even challenges and conflict, when approached with curiosity and empathy, can contribute to rediscovery. Disagreements, misunderstandings, or moments of tension force partners to confront aspects of each other that may have been overlooked, suppressed, or misunderstood. In these moments, there exists an opportunity for growth, for recognition, and for deepening connection. To engage with a partner's vulnerability, to navigate discomfort with compassion rather than defensiveness, is to reveal the underlying desire for understanding and intimacy that drives the relationship. Rediscovery, in this sense, is not merely about rekindling pleasure, but about reclaiming the emotional and psychological terrain of partnership, exploring its contours with care, courage, and curiosity. The interplay of memory and anticipation also enhances the experience of rediscovery. Recalling shared moments of passion, tenderness, or humor can reignite desire, while the anticipation of future experiences builds excitement and intimacy. Memory serves as a bridge between past and present, reminding us of the enduring qualities of our connection, while anticipation injects energy and vitality into the relationship. The combination of these forces creates a dynamic, evolving bond, one that is constantly renewed and redefined through attention, presence, and engagement. Rediscovering connection is, therefore, a cyclical process, an ongoing dance of reflection, exploration, and anticipation that keeps love alive and vibrant. There is a profound emotional richness in recognizing that rediscovery is possible even in relationships that may have grown stagnant or routine. The human capacity for change, growth, and adaptation ensures that intimacy need not fade, provided that partners remain willing to engage with one another in meaningful ways. To rediscover connection is to acknowledge the ongoing evolution of desire, the shifting landscape of emotions, and the potential for depth that exists in every interaction. It is to treat love as a living entity, responsive to attention, curiosity, and engagement, rather than as a static condition. In doing so, we honor the complexity of human emotion, the subtleties of desire, and the enduring capacity for intimacy to surprise and delight us, even when we least expect it. Physical proximity, while not the sole determinant of rediscovery, often plays a critical role in reinforcing emotional and psychological connection. Touch, for instance, is a language in itself, capable of communicating reassurance, longing, and tenderness with a nuance that words cannot match. A hand held, a shoulder brushed, a lingering caress, these gestures resonate with deep meaning, evoking memory, anticipation, and desire. Rediscovery often emerges in the interplay of these small, intimate moments, where the physical and emotional aspects of connection intersect. The body remembers, responds, and communicates, reinforcing the invisible threads that bind two hearts together and deepening the sense of intimacy that fuels desire and emotional closeness. Ultimately, rediscovering connection in surprising ways is an invitation to remain present, curious, and attuned to the dynamic nature of relationships. It is a call to honor the complexity of desire, the subtleties of emotion, and the power of vulnerability to foster intimacy. It reminds us that love is not a fixed state, but a living, evolving process, one that requires attention, courage, and willingness to engage with both the familiar and the unexpected. Each rediscovery, no matter how small or fleeting, is a testament to the resilience of human connection, the enduring power of desire, and the capacity for intimacy to renew itself in ways that continually surprise, delight, and transform the heart. Love, in its most profound and transformative form, is never predictable. It defies the neat schedules, the calculated plans, and the expectations we try to impose upon it. To embrace the unexpected in love is to open oneself to a life that is uncharted, thrilling, and often frightening, because the heart is being asked to navigate a terrain without maps, to trust instincts over certainty, and to surrender to forces that cannot be fully controlled. The unexpected in love can arrive in subtle ways: a glance, a word, a gesture, or in sweeping, faltering moments that shift the very axis of one's existence. These moments challenge assumptions, confront fears, and demand presence, because love that is lived fully cannot exist in the confines of predictability. It requires courage to remain open when the path is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain, and when the heart risks both profound joy and devastating vulnerability. There is a wildness in the unexpected that awakens desire in ways that careful planning never could. The human heart is attuned to novelty, and the surprises that life or a partner brings act as sparks that ignite passion, curiosity, and attention. A spontaneous act of tenderness, an unanticipated confession of longing, or even a daring deviation from routine, can create ripples of excitement that echo through the mind and body. These unplanned moments break the monotony of daily life, disrupting habitual patterns and forcing the heart to engage fully with the present. The thrill of unpredictability is not merely about excitement. It is about presence, the act of noticing, responding, and surrendering to what is unfolding in real time. Embracing the unexpected is to step into the current of life with open arms, knowing that the depths of love often reside in its unpredictability. Unexpected moments often expose the raw, unfiltered essence of a relationship, revealing truths that are hidden beneath layers of familiarity, routine, or comfort. When plans are disrupted, when norms are challenged, or when surprises occur, the couple is faced with the real, living texture of their connection. Reactions, choices, and emotions emerge unmediated by pretense, revealing the authenticity of desire, commitment, and intimacy. It is in these unscripted moments that partners discover resilience, tenderness, and ingenuity within themselves and each other, realizing that love is not only about maintaining equilibrium, but about embracing change, unpredictability, and the full spectrum of human emotion. The unexpected can reveal strengths and weaknesses alike, but it is precisely this raw exposure that fosters deep understanding, empathy, and growth. There is also a sensual dimension to the unexpected in love. Desire thrives on novelty, curiosity, and anticipation, and when a partner deviates from the anticipated path, the body responds in ways that are immediate and visceral. A sudden touch, an unplanned embrace, or a whispered word can trigger a cascade of emotional and physiological responses, heightened awareness, racing pulse, and a surge of longing that reminds both partners of the intensity of their bond. The interplay of surprise and desire awakens senses dulled by routine, reintroducing the thrill of first encounters, the intoxication of uncharted territory, and the delight of exploring new facets of intimacy. In this way, embracing the unexpected becomes a practice of sustaining passion, maintaining attentiveness, and cultivating an ever-evolving connection that refuses stagnation or complacency. Embracing unpredictability in love also requires a willingness to confront fear. The unknown carries risk, the risk of misunderstanding, rejection, or disappointment, and yet it is precisely this risk that makes the experience so potent. To open one's heart to the unforeseen is to place trust in the other, to acknowledge that life cannot be contained or controlled, and to accept the inherent uncertainty of emotional vulnerability. Fear and desire coexist in this space, each amplifying the other, creating a tension that is both thrilling and transformative. The courage to lean into uncertainty, to respond to it with openness rather than retreat, is an act of profound intimacy, a declaration that love is not only about comfort and predictability, but about exploration, growth, and shared adventure. Unexpected experiences in love often illuminate dimensions of oneself that have remained hidden. Moments of surprise can provoke reflection, curiosity, and self-awareness, revealing desires, insecurities, and emotions that have lain dormant. By confronting these elements within ourselves and sharing them with a partner, we deepen our understanding of both our own emotional landscape and the intricate dynamics of the relationship. The unexpected becomes a mirror, reflecting back aspects of our identity and connection that might otherwise remain unnoticed, while simultaneously offering an opportunity to respond with creativity, empathy, and courage. In this sense, love's unpredictability is not merely an external phenomenon, but a catalyst for internal exploration, emotional expansion, and personal growth. The embrace of the unexpected requires flexibility, patience, and a willingness to relinquish control. It is a conscious choice to resist the impulse to predict, plan, or manipulate outcomes, and instead to surrender to the fluidity of emotional life. In doing so, partners cultivate a shared resilience, a capacity to navigate challenges with grace, and a deepened appreciation for the unpredictability of desire and intimacy. Each unanticipated moment becomes a lesson, a reminder that love is alive, mutable, and ever-changing, requiring ongoing attention, engagement, and courage to navigate. By welcoming surprise, the relationship is infused with vitality, energy, and the possibility of experiences that are richer, more layered, and more profound than those dictated by habit. Expectation. Unexpected moments can also act as catalysts for forgiveness, reconciliation, and renewal. When plans falter or conflicts arise, unanticipated acts of understanding, generosity, or affection can restore balance and rekindle emotional intimacy. These gestures, often small but deeply significant, remind partners of the fluidity and resilience of love, the potential for repair, and the capacity for growth that exists within even the most challenging circumstances. In embracing the unexpected, individuals learn to respond to difficulties with creativity and compassion, transforming potential obstacles into opportunities for connection, exploration, and mutual enrichment. There is a sense of adventure inherent in embracing the unexpected in love. Life itself is unpredictable, and the willingness to engage with uncertainty in a relationship mirrors the broader human experience. Couples who cultivate openness to surprise, spontaneity, and deviation from expectation discover a richness of experience that cannot be achieved through rigid adherence to routine. The journey of love becomes a dynamic, evolving narrative, filled with moments of delight, tension, curiosity, and discovery. Each unexpected twist offers an opportunity to deepen intimacy, to explore new facets of desire, and to strengthen the emotional bond that underpins the relationship. In this context, love is not a static destination, but a living, breathing adventure, continually renewed through openness, courage, and presence. Unexpectedness also challenges assumptions about control, power, and predictability in relationships. It disrupts the notion that one can fully anticipate or manage the outcomes of emotional and sexual intimacy, revealing instead the complex interplay of human emotion, desire, and responsiveness. By embracing this reality, partners cultivate humility, empathy, and attentiveness, recognizing that love is not a matter of domination or orchestration, but of collaboration, presence, and shared vulnerability. The unpredictability of love becomes a teacher, guiding individuals to respond with attentiveness, creativity, and openness, rather than rigidity, fear, or avoidance. The sensual, emotional, and psychological dimensions of embracing the unexpected converge in ways that make relationships richer and more profound. Desire is heightened by novelty, emotional intimacy deepened by shared vulnerability, and trust reinforced by the willingness to navigate uncertainty together. Each unanticipated experience becomes a thread in the tapestry of connection, weaving together passion, empathy, and understanding in a pattern that is complex, dynamic, and beautiful. The capacity to embrace surprise is therefore not merely a practical skill, but a profound expression of commitment, courage, and love itself. Even moments of tension, disagreement, or discomfort, when approached with openness, can serve as catalysts for discovery and deepened intimacy. The unexpected can reveal unspoken needs, unacknowledged desires, and hidden aspects of the self, prompting dialogue, negotiation, and mutual understanding. By engaging with these moments creatively and empathetically, couples transform potential conflict into opportunities for growth, learning, and emotional enrichment. In this way, the embrace of unpredictability is both protective and generative, safeguarding the vitality of the relationship while allowing it to evolve, expand, and flourish in response to the unpredictable rhythms of life and desire. To embrace the unexpected in love is ultimately to honor the full spectrum of human experience, the joy, the uncertainty, the vulnerability, the desire, and the connection that define our existence. It is to recognize that intimacy is not static, that desire is not predictable, and that love's truest expression arises when we remain open, present, and attuned to one another, even when terrain is unfamiliar or challenging. By welcoming unpredictability, we cultivate a dynamic, resilient, and deeply rewarding form of connection that continuously surprises, delights, and transforms the heart.